live. Yeah.
Thank you, Karthik. Good evening, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon for all our viewers joining from parts of the world other than India. I am Anjali Jain, founder of CENTA, and first of all, wish all of you a very, very happy Teachers' Day. And today's session is something very special. We have organized it specially to observe and celebrate the Teachers' Day. And as you all probably know, that as far as CENTA is concerned, every day is the Teachers' Day for us. CENTA stands for the teachers, CENTA stands with the teachers, and all our work is focused on celebrating, recognizing, rewarding, and creating impactful professional growth for the teachers. So today's session, therefore, we thought we would talk about opportunities that teachers have in a slightly different context. So all of us are dealing with the aftermath, or rather, still not aftermath. All of us are dealing with the new situation that the pandemic, that COVID-19 has created for us, and it has been incredibly tough at multiple levels for the teachers, for the students, for parents, just about everyone. But if we take a step back and think a little more about it, what we also realize that this has opened up incredible opportunities for teachers across the world, and of course teachers from India, because the world has suddenly become a very small place. And as far as you as a teacher is concerned, globalization of teaching and learning has started happening at a very rapid pace. And what that means for you, my dear teachers, is that you can participate in this globalization and take advantage of opportunities that become available to you, professional opportunities that become available to you as a teacher. You can now literally teach any child anywhere in the world, and there is a lot of openness to having teachers from across the world, as long as you're a good, competent teacher. So we thought that when we celebrate Teachers' Day, for us, it means that bringing those kind of opportunities to you. And today, through the session, what we are intending to do is open your eyes to how online teaching in global context looks like. And when Cohen takes you through the session, he'll be talking to you about online teaching best practices from a global point of view, and not just from an Indian point of view. The second exciting thing that we are planning to introduce today is the climate action project that Cohen is spearheading. And I think for all of us, it's very clear that when we deal with global challenges, we need to come together. Corona has shown us all how we need to come together. And the next challenge that we need to face together as humanity is the entire climate change issue that we are beginning to deal with. And as teachers, it's extremely important for us to start sensitizing our children towards it. And I'm going to let Cohen tell you more about what the initiative is. All I will say for now is that we are very, very excited to partner with Climate Action Project and bring this to our teachers and students in India. And just before I hand over, I would like to introduce Cohen with a couple of lines. He is a much decorated global educator. He's been a winner of the Top 10 Global Teacher Prize 2 years in succession. And I think I don't have enough words to describe all his achievements, but suffice to say that he is one of the fantastic examples of what a brilliant career as a teacher looks like, and what we at CENTA would like a lot of our teachers and educators to aspire towards. So without much further ado, Cohen, I'm going to hand over to talk both about the best practices for online teaching that our teachers and educators can look at, as well as announce more details about the Climate Action Project and how the teachers and students can participate in it and what is in it for them. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening to everybody, and maybe good morning to some of you. Happy Teachers' Day. And so I'd like to share that I will share two things today. I will speak about how to teach on a distance with or without using technology during this pandemic, but also about the climate action project. And I've been teaching for 20 years in two different schools. We have been doing remote teaching for 10 years already. And I also teach to future teachers in the teacher training department of our university. And I've been speaking for quite a while about how to do this. And when I began speaking about technology enhanced learning, I always had to use like videos and about the future and the role of technology over there. And I always showed this video, which was in Dubai, and you can see some device on top of my head, and that allowed me to move the drone. Just by thinking with my mind, I was able to control a device, which is quite extraordinary. Now, the thing is that I think that conversation changed after Corona. All of a sudden, we don't have to explain anymore how to teach online synchronous and how to do that. So that conversation really changed a lot. And during the past months, I've been training all of my colleagues in my school, which are 150 different teachers, how to do this. And the very different thing is that we have been able to be trained about this. We had training and we haven't been able to train our teachers during COVID. And that was the most tricky part. And I think that the distance learning really got an upgrade. And everybody is speaking about technology right now. And I think that it's not that buzzword anymore. And it even, for some teachers, became an alternative to a classroom, but it will never replace a real teacher. And this is why. So I'd like to stress that technology, I don't think that artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality, etc., none of those technologies will ever replace a good teacher. So when I speak about technology like Mentimeter, Flipgrid, etc., most of my colleagues say like, wow, that seems like a really interesting tool. I will start using that tool as well during my classes. But they are making quite often the mistake by directly connecting certain technology directly to the content they're teaching, directly to the subject and the topic. And that's wrong. What they often forget to do is focusing on pedagogy first. Pedagogy is really, really important. And what they should do, what everybody should do when using technology in a classroom or at home, is always trying to figure the best pedagogy for certain content. And then they have to connect to the certain tool which is available at that time. Because it's really important to know that some subjects require like to be instructed, and other content or subjects or topics need to be taught in a very different way. That's really important to know, because there's a huge discussion about instruction versus other pedagogies, learning approaches like let's say collaborative learning, learning by doing, playful learning, etc. So this is a scheme I made based on that model I showed, the TPAC model, and it matches certain pedagogy to content and to technology. So when I'm trying to make sure that my students are able to write when they're really, really young, aged 6, 7, I'm not sure you can do that on a distance. There are some apps on tablets which allow to write with
Uh,
a finger.
Hi, Quinn.
Hello.
Sorry to interrupt. Are you sharing your slides right now?
I am. Yeah.
Because we're still on the first page, it seems.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's visible now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So That is unfortunately. So I showed the video where I was controlling the drone with my mind, okay? And then I was showing that it's not right to match certain technology directly to content. It's really key to make sure that there's the right pedagogy in between. And then I was showing this image where teachers, when they are going to teach about certain histories about your country in India, maybe like about Gandhi, maybe the teacher finds like the best way to go is like open-ended instruction or a demonstration or etc. And then at the end, I will ask my students to learn on their own, self-directed learning at home. And then they may decide that video conferencing may be the best tool for that situation. But when I'm going to teach students how to code a website, I will demonstrate in my classroom, and then I will shift to another approach. But for climate change, it may make more sense not to instruct my students and not ask them to learn a definition by heart. No, I want them to have a discussion. I want the students to share what they already know about climate change. And then we go to problem-based learning or playful learning, etc., which allows students to solve the problem. And that may bring very different technology in that case.
Kun, just a quick thing. Would it be possible for you to make the presentation full screen?
Well,
just a couple of teachers are requesting for that. I think this is better.
This is better? Okay.
Yeah.
I can imagine on phone it's a better view like this. Okay, so this is the first point I wanted to make. It's pedagogy is key, basically. Okay. Another point I wanted to make is that how to teach, what's the best way to teach? And there's a huge discussion about that part. Some teachers and some researchers claim that instruction is the only way to go, like a famous researcher who was called Kirchner made that call. And he says like knowledge-based learning it's important to offer knowledge, to focus on knowledge, to teach your students. This is also the way I've been instructed for like 99% of my time when I was at school. And there's another group of teachers who claim that project-based and problem-based learning is the best way to go. Playful learning, collaborative learning. You may have heard of constructivism, in which students construct their own knowledge, etc., which is really much focused on skills like creativity, on critical thinking, empathy, etc., etc. Now, what is really tricky is that both directions have the same amount of research, the same amount of books which describe that their way of teaching is the best way. That is really tricky, you know. And what really worked for me when I did research about it is this particular quote from Jean Leif, which she already made like 40 years ago or 30 years ago. And she claimed that teacher is neither necessary nor sufficient to produce learning. And she wanted to make 2 points, 2 really important points. Students are able to learn without a teacher in very different ways than being instructed. They can learn on their own, from each other, etc., from experts. And another really important point she wanted to make is that it's all about learning and the students and not about teaching and about the teacher. A teacher is crucial, we all know, okay? But it's always about the learning process of the students. And I'm really, it's quite odd that none of the researchers claiming that every subject and topic requires a very different approach. That is really odd, because there's no holy grail. Maybe I need to instruct my students' age and the topic I'm teaching, and even my school requires that I'm instructing at that time. But the next hour, maybe I need to shift to a different approach because I'm teaching another topic. There's no holy grail. And a teacher is more than just a teacher. A teacher is a pedagogical engineer who has the responsibility or the duty to apply the best learning approach to a specific situation. A teacher is a pedagogical engineer. And we are using this frame set for our blended learning approach. And this offers three important axes, basically. First of all, I grade out face-to-face because during COVID, I was not able to go to my classroom and to see my students. And I know that most of the teachers in India, if not everybody, is not able to do this face-to-face. That's why I grade out face-to-face. And the alternative is online teaching, remote teaching, teaching on a distance. Another axe is synchronous and asynchronous learning. Synchronous means live at this very moment. What we are doing right now is synchronous. What you're doing in a classroom with your students is synchronous in most cases. Asynchronous means learning at all times, not live, basically. Learning at all times, any spot at home, in the city, I don't know where, but it's not live, basically. It's not synchronous. And another axe, the third axe, that is learning individual or in a group from each other. And the interesting part is that every combination brings different technology. So you can make every single combination in this with those axes. You can learn online individually, asynchronously, or you can learn online in a group synchronously. And each of those combinations brings different technology. And most groups, so what we can see, what happened is that most teachers who had the technology and internet connection, they shifted to synchronous learning. They started to use Skype, Zoom, Teams, Google Hangouts, etc. That was live on a distance. And that's a great way because it allows to interact. It allows to record your session. If some of your students are ill, they can catch up. Some people have been claiming that it's not really secure because of Zoom, people breaking in those sessions, etc. But there's also an issue when one family has several children, basically, and only like one laptop, one device, which allows them to learn live. So then, in that case, a teacher has to shift to a different approach, which may be asynchronous learning. Asynchronous learning is that students are able to learn anywhere, anytime, thanks to videos, which we call screencasts, instructional videos, basically, a podcast, a web page, etc. The great thing about this way is that it allows students to learn at any time, but also to repeat. And this really worked in my classroom before Corona, because during some classes, I asked my students to come to my classroom, but I offered them videos. So they were able to learn at their own pace, basically. And it's a great way to individualize learning as well, because some students, they want to gain the maximum amount of knowledge. They watch all 20 videos during 1 hour, and some students struggle and they want to repeat and they want to gain the basics, basically. So that's a great way as well. But that doesn't allow to interact. When students are watching videos at home, they're not able to ask questions. And that is why I think the next stage, so the first stage is that everybody shifts to technology without really thinking what's the best way to go, what's the best pedagogy, the learning approach for them. The next stage will be going to a hybrid learning environment in which maybe the teacher gives like 20 students the videos and only 3 or 4 of those have questions, and they will come to an online space where they can ask those questions to the teacher, which is a great way because this is really individualizing learning. But it's even more complicated. I added a few more factors to this blended model because I noticed that even culture may require a different approach. I can see very clearly that in Belgium, my country, in the Netherlands, in the UK especially, they are really focused on knowledge. In some other countries, like in Canada, they really shifted to a very different approach. And I also noticed, I'm not able to generalize, but I noticed that in India, many teachers are doing the same as well. But again, the age and even the school's financial resources may require a very different approach. And I noticed this tweet. I really like to be on Twitter more than Facebook and LinkedIn and other platforms. But I noticed this tweet of a teacher who was claiming that no student has to sit through a Zoom lecture. And this is an interesting tweet. I really would like to know how you feel about this tweet. Is this person right or not? I think it's more complicated than that. What I know is that sometimes you have to instruct, so your lesson is becoming a lecture, a Zoom lecture. Actually, I'm doing quite the same right now, okay? At this very point, I am instructing to you, okay? Is that a bad way? I'm not sure. I think I have to give you some context and background before we dive into discussions, in which we begin to learn from each other. But she's also right. Teaching online also allows students to collaborate. They can set up a Google form in which they add in comments, in which they have used the chat to work together on one text. They're going to create an article or something like that. What about students asking students to create instructional videos? Some of the students may have some skills and some knowledge other students don't have, so there's a really a lot to do on the internet. And then when you have been using technology, it's good to know whether you did a good job or not. And this model, the SAMR model, allows you to evaluate how you have been doing your job with technology. The S stands for substitution. That means that the technology is only a substitute for what you've been doing before without technology. In Belgium, we have some schools who are really proud to call themselves iPad schools because they replaced the textbooks with iPads. They may be doing a really good job, but in essence, they just replaced the textbook by a very fancy tablet. They are in the S stage. What is more valuable is that they will shift to the A. Augmentation means that the technology is adding values and adding benefits to the process. This means that, like, by shifting from text and a textbook and pen and pencil basically and just using paper to a tablet, you have new features. You added a lot of benefits to the student's learning process basically. Maybe a search function adds benefits, the spelling corrector, etc. But what we really want as a teacher, what we really want is that we start transforming our students' learning process with the M or the R. And the R means that you're using technology in that great way so that you're making sure that you have new scenarios, that you shift to certain scenarios which were not able to accomplish without that certain technology. And that is why I want to explain about the projects I've been setting up. So how to get to that R, which is not really easy. 5 years ago, I heard about the Kakuma refugee camp. It's a refugee camp in Kenya with 200,000 people. And the people have very little resources over there. They make like $50 US a month. They live in very small places, obviously. They had to flee or they had to flee their country because of war and hunger, etc. And what we started to do, what I started to do, I shipped my laptop to the camp. I made sure that they had an internet connection, and we started to teach them. At that time, it was more like I started to teach them English, math, and science by using Skype. And we had, this is just one impression in the local library, but we were able to teach a lot of students, and they were really engaged. And it was necessary as well, because the teachers, the local teachers, most of them were not trained at all to become a teacher. But many teachers heard about that initiative and they wanted to join that project. Maybe some of you have been heard about this, the climate action, the Kakuma project. So drop that in the chat in case you did. So what we did is we started to create a network of teachers, a community, a global community of teachers from every continent who started to teach those students using that one laptop and one internet connection. And during the years, the community grew to 500 teachers across 75 different countries. And this year, we were able to build our own school in a refugee camp. You may see the SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, and we started to train the teachers with our laptops. The project is called the Innovation Lab Schools. And we now have our two own schools. We are working with the University of Nairobi, and we are also able to connect students from India with students, with refugees in that certain camp. And everybody is praising us that we are offering free knowledge, but we are doing a lot more. What we are doing is making sure that students from across the world have the right perspective into the refugees' lives. They know about their hobbies, their habits, their culture, etc., which is really, really interesting to see. And I want to share just one case. We used a Rachel device. So you will be stunned when I mention the price of internet connection in that camp. So for like 1 month of internet connection, that has the cost of $3,500 a month. That's just like mind-blowing, right? So we had to find a different way. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of Indian schools don't have an internet connection as well. So we came up with the Rachel device. The Rachel device brings a lot of websites like Wikipedia, TEDx, the Khan Academy, etc., brings those websites to schools without an internet connection, and 50 different laptops are able to connect with those websites. But the really interesting thing is that we noticed that the passion of teachers globally, so many teachers wanted to be part of this project. And so we launched another project, the Water Project, with only 10 schools across 10 different countries. And then we did the Human Differences Project. And that was a really interesting one. That was focusing on war. Why are countries building walls? Why are there countries in conflict with each other? But we also set up Skype calls between students from different countries who are in conflict. The USA and Russia, we had Northern Ireland and Ireland, from Israel and Palestine, etc., with a moderator in between. And it was really powerful to see what happened, because at the end, the students noticed that those other students are really cool, basically, you know. They really loved having that interaction, and they grew understanding for each other as well. We also did this Kakuma project, and another project was the Climate Action Project. That project had like 500 schools from 100 different countries in 2017. And the Climate Action Project, what we wanted to do, and I found those teachers just by connecting on Twitter, LinkedIn, with teachers from across the world. That is how we found all of those students and teachers joining the project. What we really wanted to do is focus on the UN global goals, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, during 1 month. And it was really important that we shifted from instruction-based learning, in which the teacher was pouring knowledge into the students' heads, that we were shifting to student-centered learning, the student in the center of their own learning process, in which we allow them to explore, them to brainstorm, create, discuss, connect, present their findings and even solutions, and share those at our website. And we ask the students, through the teachers, through you, to share their findings by creating very small, amateuristic weekly videos, not professional at all, just by using a smartphone or like a laptop, a small webcam. We ask the students, what have you learned during that particular lesson? And by posting that at our website, students from across the world were able to learn from each other. They were able to learn from their global peers. And this is a group of students in Sweden, and they crafted with pizza boxes, and they just crafted their solution for climate change. We also had students in Israel and Argentina, basically all over the world, trying to find solutions. And the interesting part is that we had students aged 6, but also aged 22. Everybody was welcome to join the project during all subjects: science, math, English, literature. We even had physical education, everything basically what comes to your mind. We had students in Vietnam who went on an excursion to examine water, but it was also great to see that teachers invited the parents to the classroom so that the students were able to share their findings to them and asking them to bring change at home as well. And that is really bottom up, right? Not bringing change top down, like for instance from the UN or from government. No, it was like students asking their parents to bring change at home as well. And not every participant had really fancy technology. We also had a lot of schools in Africa, like this one in Kenya. They only had like pen and paper, but still they were able to collaborate. It was tough for them to share their videos on the internet, but still we managed to do that. We had students in Turkey. They created their own song, and research confirms that when you shift to other learning approaches in which students are able to create their own knowledge, they become more creative as well. And this group in Sierra Leone, I think it's the 6th most poor country in the world. Still, they were able to join the project. They only had internet connection on Sunday, and it was really tricky for them to send just a few pictures, but they focused on climate change as well. And what happened during that month in 2017 is that in Sierra Leone, they had mud flows. And two of those students in this group died during the project. And the teacher's house was destroyed because of the mud flows as well. And still they created a very small video sharing their findings. And that was watched by students from across the world. And that is our way to bring empathy into a classroom. How to teach about empathy. I think this is the way how to do that. It's very hard to accomplish by using a textbook and asking your students to memorize a definition about climate change. When you share those messages and those findings, that is really powerful. So we shifted to asynchronous distance learning. We asked the students to create a video, which was really great in a setting with different time zones and different languages. This allowed students from New Zealand to learn from students in India, in Canada, and Africa, which is quite a challenge, you know. But we also shifted to synchronous distance learning. And this is 4 years ago, in which students from like Ireland learned from students in Denmark by setting up a very easy Skype call. And we traveled 100,000 virtual miles during that project. What's also interesting is when you ask me to teach about New Delhi, well, I will have to read a book. I really hope that the book would be accurate, or I have to browse the internet and I would share what I have been reading on the internet with my students. Is that the best way to learn, for my students to learn about New Delhi? I don't know, you know. Is that the best way to learn about Hindi, about Bangalore, and etc., about the country, etc.? I don't know. What we did is we asked experts, world-renowned experts, to share their findings. We had speakers from Discovery Channel. This is Dr. Langwell from Project Earth, which is a famous series. And she has been speaking about solar energy and how they created that series. And that really inspired the students. And it made just more sense for her sharing about solar than I was sharing about solar energy. But also by using technology, we try to use it in a meaningful way. I was not asking the students like press B to put your text in bold, etc. No, they were learning from each other how to create a PowerPoint presentation, how to record a video, how to edit this video. And the interesting part is that we noticed that the students were growing and going to the next stage throughout the project, because by watching each other's videos, they noticed like, wow, this is a really interesting tool to use to edit the videos. Let's try that ourselves as well. But the interesting part was also that I never heard of the green screen. I didn't know what that was until I watched this video from the United States, in which they used the green screen. Just you can paint a wall in green, or you can use a curtain or something like that. But by using a green screen app, you can bring your students into a very different area or environment. And this is, they invited the doctor, and they did as if they were in like some kind of a talk show by using that app. But also, I didn't know that there are virtual reality classes, which are only like $2 or $3, which allow you to bring your own smartphone inside those classes. And by using free tools like Google Expeditions, you can bring your students to every continent. You can bring them to Paris to study the Mona Lisa. You can bring them to Costa Rica to study sloths with a guide, or like to Australia to see like the coral reefs. Also really interesting to see is that students use Minecraft in 50 different countries, and they built an eco-friendly world. So they built their own world with a hyperloop, with solars, and during every single moment of the day, somebody was working in that world. We had students creating their own video game, and this was a teacher in Arizona who noticed that her students believe everything they read on the internet, and even fake news. They don't know anything about fake news. So she decided to dedicate this project to critical thinking, making sure that the students know to verify data, basically. We had students from Egypt who came to school during 4 weeks of summer holidays. And still they came to school just to be part of this project. But we also want students to do more than studying, exploring, and brainstorming. We want them to solve problems as well. We had students who teamed up with Texas Instruments, and they created echo bricks in Indonesia. We had students in Canada 3D printing coral reefs. That was their solution. In Nigeria, they created their own biomass plants, and they went to communities to give those to the people. In India, yay! We had students creating their own bioplastics. I really didn't have a clue that you can do that yourself. Did you? Did you know that you can create your own bioplastics? Well, those students did, and they did not only create bioplastics, they shared their recipe to the rest of the world. So everybody is able to access that recipe. It's available for every teacher as well. Students even created their own solar-driven cart. I was like, that looks great. And the teacher was like, yeah, but that actually drives, that is really functional. So that was really, really, really mind-blowing. I didn't understand how that was possible. But by sharing those solutions with every other participant, everybody benefits from this. Everybody knows how to do that activity at home or with their students as well. Is there anybody who knows this person? I know I'm going fast, but I only have like 20 minutes left. Is there anybody who knows this Indian genius? Nobody knows? No? I met him in Bangalore, I think in 2016, and he made a website, the Toys from Trash. This was Arvind Gupta, and he made Toys from Trash. Just by using trash, you can create your own solar carts or boat or plane or whatever. Really interesting to take a look at that website. We also had students in Argentina and in Canada who created their own water bubble. You can eat this bubble of water. They created those themselves. As you can see, very, very young students. And those students in the US used aquaponics to grow plants with 80% less water. And they shipped their solution to Malawi so that the students in Malawi were able to grow plants with very low amounts of water as well. And then we took action. During the last weeks, we had students from Sweden visiting their prime minister. They shared their solutions. We had students in Germany going on a flash mob with a famous singer, Detlef in Germany. They made national television. We had students, and this was before we had Greta Thunberg going on a strike, a few years before even. We had students, 400 students in Peru going on a march. They created their own banner. We had students in Vietnam recycling and planting plants, basically. We even had students in Ireland coming up with a solution and made their own national change. Everywhere in Ireland, they are now having green dots on packages, on every item you buy in stores. And they worked with the Minister of Environment and even received a letter from their president. Can you imagine that your students receive a letter from a president? That was just because of this small climate action project we launched. And I met this teacher from Malawi. His name is Andrews, and he mentioned like, Mr. Timmers, because of your project, the climate action project, we started to plant trees. I was like, that's great. We planted 60 million trees, 60 million trees to save a river and a lake. I was really impressed by that. We even got supported by the Dalai Lama, Charlize Theron, a lot of famous people, and a lot of large organizations as well. This was the climate action project during the past years, the past 3 years. This year, in 2020, it will be challenging, but still we will do the climate action projects. This year, we will have 10 million participants, students and teachers globally in 119 different countries. We reached out to governments like ministries of education or departments of education and ministries of environment. And this year we will be supported by 15 different nations. We have an official partnership with WWF International. And we shifted to different learning approaches, but still we noticed that teachers really would love to receive a curriculum with lesson plans, with learning activities, how to do this. And so we created this curriculum, and that will be available when you sign up at our website in 2 weeks. And we will translate it to 10 different languages, including English and Hindi. This year, we even will be able to send a message to the space, to Mars, because we work with NASA, and your students will be able to send their solution, a drawing, a picture, a message to Mars because of our collaboration with NASA that has never been done before. And I know that it's really challenging. Your students may be at home due to a lockdown. You may be concerned about meeting curriculum this year because of Corona. You decide how much time you want to spend on this project. It will be 6 weeks. In case you decide to be just part of it for like half an hour, that's perfect. But still, you will be having those opportunities to connect with teachers from across the world, to send your message to Mars, and to gain your certificate and badge. It's quite easy. When you go to the website, you will be able to find everything you need. You will be able to find the information to show your school leader. You will be able to find the topics, the timeline, the curriculum, learning activities, lesson plans, what other students have been doing during the past years, the endorsements from famous people, and it was in national media across 45 different countries, also in India. You can find all of that at our website. Signing up is really easy. You just go to climate-action.info. You can find all of the information, but signing up is really easy. You can do that within 1 minute. And then once you access the website, you will be sent an email with guidelines, etc. And you will be able to follow teachers. You can follow, just like I did, Bafna, Niru, Pramod, etc., from all different countries, from 119 different countries, and you can send them a message and start sharing concerns, best practices, what you did in your classroom. You can ask them to have a virtual interaction. You can ask them to start working together, etc., etc. We also started to bundle all of those great examples I shared, like how to create your own biogas plant. I can see there's a typo in that. You can do the seedling project, plantable seed paper, bioplastics. You can find the recipe at our website as well. You can find how to create water bubbles, etc., etc. It's all online. It's all for free. It's a free project. And it is for you. We made that for you. We are trying to give you and your students those opportunities. Like, this is the lesson plan, how to create your own bioplastic. You can say, like, I will try to do this my own. Maybe you will modify the activity, and it will allow you to create your own learning activity as well. You can find all of the videos and presentations created by students during the past years. I need to stress that those learning activities, also some of them can be done by your students at home during a lockdown, like how to create your own vertical garden with trash, etc. So giving them some meaningful activities which don't require fancy materials. You can watch the videos. This is a video from the Plastic Brigade in India during the last year. And it was covered by national press, media, television, radio. We will guide you to ping your press in case you want to do that, to feature what you have been doing in your classroom. We will be setting up live interactions, webinars. This is the webinar we did last year with NASA. So this is NASA, and you can see that we had a lot of students online. We will be doing webinars throughout the project with NASA, with WWF, with the UN, famous people, but also with students, because it's all about you and the students. And during the last week, you will be able to generate your own certificate. This is just a template. It's not the certificate, obviously, but both your students and you will get a certificate and a badge, which you can treasure, you know. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you had a lot of questions, which I'm happy to answer right now. But thank you so much for attending this call. I'm sorry for the technical glitches in the beginning, but that is how it is, you know. I don't want to share that it's all easy. It isn't, you know. It's not easy to use technology. You can have like issues with apps, with internet connection. Maybe you don't have internet connection at all. It's always tricky and difficult. You know, I want you to remember that. But it's important to be part of a bigger whole, of a network, to be part of CENTA, to be part of the Climate Action Project allows you to share those concerns and those solutions you have and those best practices with each other. And that is what it's all about. Collaboration is key. Thank you. Any questions today?
Thanks a lot, Kun. Thanks a lot. Yes, there were a couple of questions which I came across. Also, a couple of comments. One was from Ruchi ma'am, and the other was from Aisha ma'am, and they said that they've been doing similar projects with, students in other countries like Tanzania and Jamaica and Malaysia, and would love to, connect with you. So, Aisha ma'am, Ruchi ma'am, that's absolutely incredible. I'd request you to drop us an email on team@CENTA, and we'll definitely connect you to Kun. And absolutely, we'd also encourage you to, make your students a part of the climate action project. So yeah, just wanted to make that point. And uh, and I think we had there are a few questions. We'll There was a question from Anish Nair, and Anish was asking, could you elaborate a little bit about the challenges that you faced in all these initiatives of yours and how you've overcome them?
Yeah, there are a lot of challenges. It's a really interesting question. Thank you for that. So, first of all, some schools are not allowed to join because their governments don't believe in climate change. And I need to stress that this is not only about climate change, it's also about environmental injustice like pollution, biodiversity, the loss of biodiversity, etc., etc. But some countries and states in the US don't believe in climate change and they were not allowed to join. That was one issue we had. Another issue may be because of language. We had very little amount of schools in Latin America because most teachers only speak Spanish, which is perfect. And this year we will be having translations to Spanish and all of those languages like Hindi as well. But we also will be having facilitators who will be guiding you personally, because with that huge amount of participants, we really want to be sure that everybody is guided personally. So we will be having facilitators. For some countries, technology is an issue. So for like Tanzania and Kenya and Liberia, we will be making sure that we use WhatsApp, because that's the only technology which really works over there. I don't want to generalize, but that really works well for them. And like in China, they are not able to use any of those technologies like Facebook or Twitter or WhatsApp. So we will be using WeChat to make sure that still they are able to join us as well. So it can be politically, it can be because of technology, it can be because of languages that there were barriers, but we always try to solve them. So if there are any concerns, please reach out to me or to CENTA, and we will explain how we are trying to solve those issues as well.
Sure. And there are a couple of questions on the climate action project itself. And Priyanka ma'am is asking, is there any limit on the number of students for this project? I guess no.
No, there's no limit. You have to know that it's not possible for the students to sign up at the website. It still has to go through the teacher. Let's make just a comparison with Facebook, who doesn't allow having students below 12 years old. We just want to go through the teacher. You can do this on a class level, just you on your own. You can do this on a school level, but we prefer that every teacher signs up themselves, simply because you will be receiving the guidelines, you will be receiving information, the lesson plans, the curriculum, and it's good to have that information yourself and not when it has to go through your school leader or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. And I think Anuradha ma'am has a similar question, and you've answered that. Uh, sure. Um, Yes, yeah, there are a few more questions on climate change website. Yes, so some of you would have already received the email from us last week, and we're going to be sending mailers on the whole project in coming days. So all the details are going to be there. So keep an eye on your email inbox for more information on climate action project. Um, I'm just checking for
I
a few
noticed
more
one
questions.
question about the pandemic. Yeah, so how can teachers visit places and do research? Well, it will be a different year. This year will be different. Some of the things you may not be able to do. So we will have to be really creative, making sure that you still can get the most out of it. Maybe you will not be able to visit certain places and do examinations with water or experiments, but you can do other things, and we will make sure that you know which kind of activities you can do even with your students at home. Yeah.
And Radha ma'am has a related question, and she's asking, how do we evaluate if the students are not able to do it?
Yeah. What I always do is I always send surveys to my students, like a Google form or Office form, so that the students are able to give feedback. That's really crucial to know that your students are able to learn, that they feel well. It's also about well-being, this project. So we will always try to make sure that we know that your teachers and your students are learning and that they feel that they are engaged, etc. Yeah.
Sure. And this question may need a little bit of context. Padmavati ma'am is saying she cannot assess creative writing of rural children. How can she strengthen their creativity?
Yeah. So when there's no internet connection, it's tough. I know. It requires that you go to the students just once a week, once a month. I don't know. We will make sure that you will be able to print some of the activities and hand them out to the students, or just pass information. But in any case, it will be really, really tough, because without the technology, there's no live interactions. You will not be able to connect your students with students from across the world. But that means that it will be more like a local project. And I think that you still can do really valuable things about it. We also have an activity about literature, how to do this with literature, or by making a quiz. There are several ways to focus on climate change and environment, also without technology. Yeah.
Sure. And we'll take a couple of more questions, I guess. We're almost running out of time, but this question goes back to the first half of the presentation. And Nalini ma'am is asking, how can we teach primary grade kids in this current situation? What are the apps available, the ideal apps to teach them?
Yeah. What I think for me works really well is like creating small videos to be sent to your students. And then the students can watch those videos and try to replicate at home. Having some kind of an interaction also is really meaningful. This can also be like setting up a WhatsApp group and through the parents. I think the parents will have a really important role during this process as well. When it comes to assessment, that is really tough. I think, like in Belgium, we were not, during COVID, we were not able or allowed by government to teach new materials. We only were allowed to rehearse. I'm sure that this is not the case in other countries, but it's always really, really tough. I know that. But it's really important to know that you have to make sure that your students keep on learning. It may be in a different way, it may be less than with the teacher, but it's also really important for them to see their teacher, especially in primary education. They are really keen to see the face of the teacher and to have some kind of interaction, even if it's not about certain what in your curriculum and criteria, etc. For them, it's really important to see and to have a very small interaction with their teachers, who they really look up to. Yeah, to have that connection still. Yeah.
Sure. So I'll just pin the next comment. It's a comment actually. And as I get Anjali back into the session, so probably I'll just pin this because this is a concrete takeaway. So I'm just going to pin it here.
Okay.
All right. So thank you, Cohen. And it was a wonderful session. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway, and hopefully for all the audience here, has been that how we can take an example of a climate action project to collaborate with teachers and students all over the world. And while, as we've been talking about this, COVID has thrown many, many challenges for us. It has also opened up a world of opportunities and participation in this project and letting or helping the students learn about climate, and in the process teaching them about science, English, and associated subjects is a wonderful opportunity, which I think all of you should participate in. It will also open up, or rather create bridges for you to collaborate with teachers across the world, which will bring in certain kind of best practices that you can use in your schools and with your students. And we're very, very happy to collaborate with you on this, Cohen, and very pleased to host you for this session today, a special session on Saturday. So thank you for your time, and thank you all the teachers for taking time on a Saturday on Teachers' Day to come and attend this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to CENTA for allowing me to share this information with you. I noticed quite some questions about how to join the project. Well, I projected the website climate-action.info/join us. That will be the place to be to sign up as a teacher. You will be receiving emails and information, but also from CENTA, they will be sending out mailers with the right information. And last but not least, I'd like to wish you a really happy Teachers' Day today, and all the best to you. I really, from the bottom of my heart, hope that you're doing well during this this pandemic, and I really appreciate you as well, because you're doing magic with your students. Maybe nobody knows, but maybe it's not on the internet, maybe you're not on a webinar, but you're doing a really, really important job. And thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cohen. And for everyone's information, the feedback link has been posted in the chat today. And please feel free to fill that and tell us what you think about the session. What more would you like us to organize? And we'll be sending you more emails about the climate action project also. So thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gun. Thanks a lot. I think there was a couple of teachers who requested for the presentation. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll try and get the presentation and host it on my center so that the teachers can access it
Okay.
all at all
Yeah.
times. We'll do that.
I'm sorry for this technology. I've been doing this with keynotes